The rain hammered against the windows of Luminosa, the kind of upscale Italian restaurant where silence costs more than noise. Elena Martinez had worked there for 3 months, long enough to recognize the regulars, the tourists, and the dangerous ones. Tonight, Dante Moretti sat at table 7. She'd seen his photograph in the newspaper tucked behind the bar. Not the society pages, but the crime section her manager quickly folded away. Dark hair swept back from a face carved from Carrara marble, eyes like chips of obsidian that seemed to calculate the worth of everything they touched. The Moretti family didn't just have roots in this city. They were the roots, spreading dark and deep beneath the glittering surface. Elena's hands trembled as she carried the bottle of Burlo to his table. She was nobody, a waitress drowning in medical school debt, and her mother's hospital bills. The kind of person men like Dante Moretti never noticed, unless they needed something from you, and then you prayed they forget you just as quickly. "Your wine, sir." Her voice remained steady despite the warning bells clanging in her skull. Dante didn't look up from the menu. 2 men flanked him at the table, bull-necked and watchful. She recognized the telltale bulge under the left man's jacket. Her father had been a cop before a bullet found him in an alley much like the ones these men probably controlled. As she poured, her gaze drifted to the kitchen doors, where Marco, the sous chef, kept glancing toward table 7 with the hungry expression of a wolf watching sheep. Something was wrong. Marco had been jittery all evening, dropping pans, burning sauces. And 20 minutes ago, she'd seen him duck into the walk-in freezer with his phone pressed to his ear, his face pale and gleaming with sweat. Then she'd noticed the 2 men at table 12, the ones who'd ordered appetizers an hour ago and hadn't touched them. They weren't eating. They weren't talking. They were waiting, their eyes locked on Dante Moretti with the patience of hunters at a blind. Elena's blood turned to ice. She shouldn't care. Whatever happened in the shadows of the city's underworld had nothing to do with her. She served food, collected tips, went home to her cramped apartment and her mother's morphine schedule. Getting involved meant becoming a target, and she'd spent her whole life trying to be invisible. But her father's voice echoed in her memory. Asterisk, evil thrives when good people look away, Mija. Asterisk, damn it. Elena finished pouring and returned to the kitchen, her mind racing. She grabbed a notepad from her apron, her pen hovering over the paper. What could she write? What would a man like Dante Moretti believe from a nobody waitress? Asterisk table 12. They're here for you. Kitchen compromised. Asterisk. Short. Direct. She folded it small, her palms slick with sweat. This was insane. If she was wrong, she'd look like a lunatic. If she was right and Dante survived, he wanted to know how she knew, and digging into her life could uncover things she'd spent years burying. If she was right and he died, innocent people in this restaurant might die with him. Her hands shook as she plated his appetizer, burrata with heirloom tomatoes and basil oil. She tucked the note beneath the edge of the plate, where only he would see it, hidden by the curve of the china. The walk back to table 7 felt like a mile through quicksand. "Your burrata, sir." She set the plate before him, the note visible only from his angle. Dante's hand moved toward his fork, then stopped. Those obsidian eyes lifted to her face, sharp and assessing. He'd seen it. Elena's heart hammered against her ribs as his fingers brushed the paper, palming it with the smooth discretion of someone accustomed to secrets. She turned away, fighting the urge to run. "Wait." His voice was dark velvet over steel. Elena froze, every muscle tensing. "What's your name?" She turned back slowly. Up close, he was even more devastating and more dangerous. A scar cut through his left eyebrow, and his hands, elegant against the white tablecloth, bore the faint marks of old violence. "Elena, sir. Elena." He tasted her name like wine. "Thank you." The words were ordinary, but his eyes held a promise. Or perhaps a threat. She nodded and escaped to the kitchen, her legs weak. Behind the line, she watched through the service window. Dante read the note beneath the table, his expression never changing. He said something to men beside him, words too quiet to hear. One of them stood casually and walked toward the restroom, phone already in his hand. At table 12, the 2 men shifted. One checked his watch. Marco emerged from the pantry carrying a covered silver dome. Dante's main course, Osso ordered 30 minutes ago. But Elena hadn't seen the expo plate, and Marco never delivered food to tables. He was heading straight for table 7, his gait stiff, his face gray. Her father's training kicked in. She scanned Marco's approach, the angle, the timing, the way his right hand gripped the dome's handle too tightly, while his left hand trembled at his side. The sheen of sweat on his forehead, despite the kitchen's controlled temperature. "Marco," she called, moving to intercept him. "Chef wants you back on the line." "I'll take that." "No." His voice cracked. "I've got it." She caught his wrist and felt him shaking. Their eyes met, and she saw it. The terror of a man with no good choices. Someone had leverage on him. Probably his sister with the gambling debts, or his mother in the nursing home he could barely afford. "Please," he whispered. "They have Gabriella." Elena's breath caught. She knew that fear intimately, the chokehold of protecting someone you loved. "Then let me help you both." She took the dome from his hands before he could protest, feeling its weight. Too heavy. Her stomach dropped. She carried it toward table 7, her mind calculating angles and distances. Dante watched her approach, his posture deceptively relaxed, but she caught the coiled tension in his shoulders. He'd read the note. He was ready. The man who'd gone to the restroom returned, sliding back into his seat. 3 more men had materialized from somewhere. The bar, the patio, forming a loose perimeter. At table 12, the 2 hunters had gone very still, their plans disrupted by the sudden multiplication of targets. Elena set the dome before Dante, her hand steady through sheer force of will. As she lifted the silver cover, she deliberately fumbled, tipping it forward. The Osso Buco slid across the table, and beneath it, nestled where the veal shank should have been, was a small device with a digital timer. For minutes, 37 seconds. "Oh, God, I'm so sorry." She grabbed for napkins, making a show of panic while her eyes screamed the truth at Dante. His hand caught her wrist, gentle but unyielding. "Everyone out. Now!" His men moved like a choreographed dance. One grabbed the device, running for the kitchen's back exit. 2 more pulled fire alarms, sending shrill warnings through the restaurant. Diners stumbled to their feet, confused and complaining. At table 12, the 2 men bolted for different exits. Dante's grip on Elena's wrist tightened. "You're coming with me." "I can't, my manager." "Is that really your concern right now?" His voice cut through her protest. He was right. She just exposed an assassination attempt. Whether she ran with Dante or stayed here, she was already dead. They moved through the chaos, Dante's hand sliding from her wrist to the small of her back, steering her through the kitchen. Marco stood frozen by the walk-in, his face a mask of despair. As they passed, Elena caught his sleeve. "Take your mother and sister. Drive to my apartment. You know the address from the employee files. Keys under the mat. Go. Now." Then they were out in the alley, rain soaking through Elena's thin uniform. A black Mercedes idled with its engine running, back door already open. Dante pushed her inside and slid in beside her, his body shielding hers as the car accelerated before the door fully closed. Through the rear window, she watched Luminosa recede into the rainy night. Somewhere behind them, a muffled explosion lit the sky orange. The bomb had detonated, probably in a dumpster far from innocent people. "Thank you." Dante's voice drew her attention back. "You saved my life." Elena's adrenaline crashed, leaving her shaking. "Those men at table 12. My men are handling them." He studied her with unsettling intensity. "How did you know?" "The sous chef. Marco. He was acting strange, and those men weren't really eating, just watching you, and I thought..." She pressed her hands to her face. "Oh, God, what did I just do?" "You did the right thing." His fingers curled around her hands, drawing them away from her face. His touch was surprisingly warm. "But you understand that changes everything." "Changes what?" "Your life. The people who wanted me dead will discover who interfered. They'll come for you to tie up loose ends, or to use you against me." His thumb brushed across her racing pulse. "You're not safe anymore." The truth settled over her like a burial shroud. She'd thrown away her invisibility, her careful anonymity. For what? A man she didn't know, who lived in a world of violence she'd spent her life avoiding. "I have a mother," she whispered. "She's sick. She needs me. Where is she?" "St. Catherine's Hospice. Stage for cancer." Dante pulled out his phone, speaking rapid Italian to someone on the other end. Elena caught fragments. Asterisk immediate transfer. Private care. Best oncologist asterisk. Before exhaustion and shock pulled her under. She woke in silk sheets, disoriented by the softness and the light filtering through floor-to-ceiling windows. The room was enormous, decorated in shades of cream and gold, with artwork on the walls that probably cost more than her entire life. A woman in her 50s entered, carrying a tray with coffee and pastries. "Good morning, Miss Martinez. I'm Lucia, the housekeeper. Mr. Moretti asked me to provide anything you need." "Where am I?" "Mr. Moretti's estate. You're safe here." Safe. The word fell foreign on her tongue. Lucia set the tray on the bedside table and gestured to the adjoining bathroom. "Fresh clothes are in the closet. Mr. Moretti would like to see you when you're ready, but there's no rush." After Lucia left, Elena stumbled to the bathroom, catching her reflection in the mirror. Her uniform was gone, replaced by a silk nightgown she didn't remember putting on. Someone had removed her clothes, washed away the restaurant smells and rain, tucked her into bed like a child. The violation should have terrified her. Instead, she felt oddly cared for, which was perhaps more dangerous. She showered and found the closet stocked with clothes in her exact size. Jeans, sweaters, dresses, all bearing designer labels she'd only seen in magazine spreads. How had Dante known her measurements? The question added another layer to her unease. Dressed in jeans and a cashmere sweater that felt like a cloud, she followed the sound of voices downstairs. The estate sprawled in elegant excess, all marble floors and soaring ceilings, the kind of wealth that whispered rather than shouted. She found Dante in a study lined with leather-bound books, speaking Italian into his phone. He'd changed from last night's suit into dark slacks and a white shirt, sleeves rolled to reveal forearms roped with muscle. When he saw her, he ended the call. "Elena, how are you feeling?" "Like I'm in a dream, or a nightmare." She wrapped her arms around herself. "You said you'd handle my mother." "She's been transferred to the Harrington Institute, best cancer center in the country. Dr. Sarah Chun is overseeing her care personally." He crossed to a laptop on his desk, turning it to face her. "You can video call her now if you'd like." Elena stared at the screen, then at Dante. "Why?" "Because you saved my life at great cost to your own. Because your mother is suffering, and I have the resources to help her. Because," he paused, something flickering in his dark eyes, "because you didn't have to warn me, and you did anyway." Her throat tightened. She clicked the video call, and her mother's face appeared, thin and tired but smiling from a sunny private room. Asterisk Meja asterisk. "They tell me you arranged this." "How?" Elena looked at Dante, who nodded slightly. "I helped someone. He's returning the favor." They talked for 20 minutes, her mother crying with relief about Dr. Chen's new treatment plan, about the private nurses and the view of the gardens. When Elena ended the call, tears streaked her cheeks. "Thank you," she whispered. Dante handed her a handkerchief, monogrammed with his initials. "You should know what you're mixed up in." He told her everything, or at least a version of everything. The Moretti family controlled the city's port operations, along with legitimate businesses that laundered less legitimate profits. Dante had inherited the empire at 25 when his father was killed, spending the last 8 years consolidating power and trying to legitimize the family's holdings. "There are people who want to keep things the old way," he explained. "Violent, bloody, profitable. I'm trying to evolve us into something that doesn't require constant warfare." He poured them both espresso from a silver service. "But evolution breeds resistance. So they try to kill you. They'll try again. And now they know someone inside. Luminosa warned me. Marco's probably already given them your name under interrogation." Elena's blood chilled. "Marco, is he?" "Safe. My men found him first. He's with your mother at Harrington. Actually, getting treatment for the beating they gave him to ensure compliance. Dante's voice hardened. His sister and mother are in protective custody. The men who threatened them won't threaten anyone again. She understood his implication. Death delivered with cold efficiency. It should have repulsed her. Instead, she felt a dark satisfaction that Marco's tormentors had faced justice, even if it came from a source her father would have arrested. What happens to me now? That's your choice. Dante moved closer, his presence overwhelming in the quiet study. I can relocate you. New city, new identity, enough money to start over. You'd be safe, but you'd have to leave everything behind. Or you stay under my protection. I have enemies, Elena, but they fear me for good reason. No one would dare touch you while you're mine. The possessive word sent heat curling through her belly. Yours? Poor word choice. But his eyes suggested otherwise. Under my care. And what would I do? Just live here, waiting for your enemies to forget about me. You have medical school debt. $43,000. I'll pay it off. You can continue your studies, become the doctor you want to be. He set down his espresso cup. Or you could work for me. Doing what? What you did last night. Seeing what others miss. Reading people. Anticipating danger. His hand rose to brush a strand of damp hair from her cheek. You have a gift for observation. Elena, in my world, that's more valuable than gold. She should refuse. Should take the relocation and run as far from this dark prince and his empire's shadows. But her mother was receiving care that would cost millions. Marco and his family were safe. And beneath her fear lurked something more dangerous. Curiosity. What would it feel like to stop being invisible? To be seen, valued, protected by a man who moved through the world like a blade through silk? I need time to think. Take all you need. The estate is yours to explore. Lucille will show you around. He returned to his desk, dismissing her, but not before she caught the flash of disappointment in his eyes. Over the following days, Elena discovered the strange rhythms of Dante's world. The estate sprawled across 40 acres, with gardens that seemed to bloom despite the autumn chill, a pool house larger than her old apartment, and security so discreet she only noticed it when she looked for it. Dante was often gone, managing whatever business required managing. When he returned, usually late, he'd find her in the library or the music room, and they'd talk about books, about her mother's improving health, about nothing and everything. He never touched her again after that brush of fingers in the study, but she felt his awareness of her like a physical thing, heavy and warm. On the fifth night, she found him in his study, staring at a chessboard arranged mid-game. He looked exhausted, his shirt rumpled, a tumbler of whiskey at his elbow. "Do you play?" he asked without looking up. "My father taught me." "Sit." She took the chair opposite him. They played in silence, the only sound the click of pieces on marble. He was aggressive, she realized, sacrificing pawns to pressure her king. She responded with patience, building defenses, waiting for him to overextend. "Your father was a cop," Dante said, capturing her knight. Elena's hand froze over her bishop. "How?" "I know everything about you. Elena, Officer Rafael Martinez, killed in the line of duty 8 years ago. Your mother's diagnosis came 6 months later. You dropped out of medical school to work 3 jobs, barely keeping ahead of the bills until you couldn't anymore." His dark eyes lifted to hers. "I know what it's like to carry that weight." "Do you?" She moved her bishop, threatening his queen. "You inherited an empire. I inherited debt and grief. I inherited my father's enemies and his bloodstains. I was 25, barely finished with graduate school, and suddenly responsible for 300 people's livelihoods and twice as many secrets." He protected his queen as she'd known he would. Don't assume wealth makes burden lighter. It just changes its shape. She studied the board, seeing his trap 3 moves ahead. Instead of avoiding it, she moved into it, sacrificing her rook. His eyes narrowed. "Why did you save me?" he asked softly. "Because it was right." "Right." He laughed bitterly. "Do you know what I did today, Elena? I ordered a man tortured for information about the bombing. He told me everything, names, locations, financing. Then I had him killed because he betrayed his oath to my family. He captured her rook as predicted. I'm not a good man. I'm not someone who deserves saving. Neither am I. She moved her queen, sliding it across the board with quiet finality. Checkmate. Dante stared at the board, then at her, something igniting behind his eyes. How? You were so focused on my rook, you didn't see my queen's path. She leaned back. You assume people will protect their strongest pieces. Sometimes you have to sacrifice them to win. He stood abruptly, rounding the desk. Elena's breath caught as he loomed over her, his hands bracing on the arms of her chair, caging her in. You're dangerous, he murmured. So are you. I could destroy you, Elena. Ruin you. People who get close to me tend to end up dead or damaged. Then let me go. But she didn't move, didn't break eye contact. I can't. His hand rose to cup her jaw, thumb tracing her lower lip. God help me, I can't. When he kissed her, it was inevitability and doom wrapped in silk. His mouth claimed hers with the same ruthless precision he brought to everything else, demanding surrender. Elena gave it, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. He tasted like whiskey and danger, and she wanted to drown in both. Dante lifted her from the chair, setting her on the desk, scattering chess pieces. His hand spanned her waist, pulling her against him as he deepened the kiss, swallowing her gasp. Elena wrapped her legs around him, feeling the hard evidence of his desire against her core. Tell me to stop, he breathed against her throat. No. His laugh was dark and pleased. He carried her from the study, up the sweeping stairs to his bedroom, a space she hadn't seen before, all dark wood and darker secrets. The bed was enormous, covered in black silk that whispered against her skin as he laid her down. I should be gentle with you, Dante said, covering her body with his. You deserve soft words and sweet touches. I don't want gentle. Elena pulled him down for another kiss. I want real. He gave her real. His hands mapped her body with possessive reverence, stripping away her clothes until she lay bare beneath him. When he finally claimed her, it was with a raw intensity that stole her breath and rewrote her understanding of pleasure. Afterward, wrapped in his arms with the moon painting silver across the sheets, Elena traced the scars on his chest, bullet wounds, knife marks, the topography of violence. Do you regret it? Dante asked quietly. The sex? No, all of it. Warning me, getting pulled into this world. She considered lying, offering the answer he wanted to hear. But they'd both had enough of lies. I don't know yet. Ask me when this is over. It's never over. Elena, that's what you need to understand. He turned to face her, his expression solemn in the darkness. If you stay with me, you're choosing this life. The danger, the secrets, the blood on my hands that will never wash clean. And if I go, I'll make sure you're safe. Always. His fingers threaded through her hair. But I'll never stop wanting you. The confession cracked something in her chest. She'd spent so long being invisible, wanted to matter to someone beyond her utility. And here was this dangerous, damaged man offering her exactly that. To be seen, valued, desired. It was probably a trap. A beautiful gilded cage. But God, she was tired of being safe. Teach me, she whispered. Teach you what? Your world. How to read people, anticipate threats, survive in the shadows. She met his eyes. If I'm staying, I won't be helpless. Dante smiled. It was wolf-sharp and proud. Tomorrow, then, your education begins. True to his word, Dante became her mentor. He taught her to read micro-expressions, the tiny tells that betrayed lies. He brought her to meetings, having her observe and report what she noticed. He showed her the legitimate businesses, the shipping company, the construction firm, the restaurant chain, and the careful accountant that kept everything legal, if not exactly ethical. She met his inner circle. Lorenzo, his consigliere, who studied her with calculating eyes, Marcus, his head of security, who taught her to shoot, and Sophia, his cousin, who ran the family's charitable foundation and became Elena's unlikely friend. He's different with you. Sophia said one afternoon over coffee in the estate sunroom. Softer. Almost human. Dante's plenty human. Is he? Sophia's smile was sad. I've known him since we were children. He's brilliant, loyal, terrifying. But soft? Vulnerable? Not since his father died, and he inherited all this. She gestured vaguely at the world beyond the windows. You've cracked something open in him. Elena, I just hope it doesn't get you both killed. The words proved prophetic. 3 months into her new life, Elena accompanied Dante to a charity gala, her first public appearance at his side. She wore a black gown that clung like sin, and Dante in his tuxedo looked like every dark fantasy she'd ever had. Stay close, he murmured as they entered the glittering ballroom. Smile. Let them wonder. She did, playing her part as his mysterious companion. But her training kicked in, cataloging faces, noting tension in shoulders, watching hands that strayed too close to concealed weapons. That's when she saw him. The man from Table 12 at Luminosa, the one who'd escaped the restaurant before the explosion. He was older now, harder, his eyes scanning the crowd with predatory intent. Elena's hand tightened on Dante's arm. North wall, gray suit. He was at the restaurant. Dante's expression never changed, but she felt him tense. You're certain? Yes. Marcus. He said quietly into his collar mic, gray suit, north wall. Intercept. But the man had seen them looking. He moved fast, pulling a gun from beneath his jacket. Elena didn't think. She shoved Dante sideways as the shot rang out, feeling fire tear through her shoulder. They hit the ground together, Marcus and Lorenzo already returning fire. The room erupted into screaming chaos, guests stampeding for exits. Elena pressed her hand to her shoulder, blood-hot and slick between her fingers. Elena, Christ! Dante's face above her, pale and furious. Stay with me. Stay with me. I'm okay, she gasped. Just shoulder. Marcus appeared, lifting her as Dante cleared a path through the panicking crowd. They reached the car, tires shrieking as they sped from the venue. Dante pressed his jacket to her wound, his hands shaking. You stupid, brave woman. Why did you do that? Same reason as always. Elena smiled despite the pain. It was right. At this state, Dante's private doctor patched her up. The bullet had gone through muscle, missing anything vital. Pumped full of painkillers, Elena floated on a cloud of artificial calm as Dante sat at her bedside, holding her uninjured hand. I should send you away, he said hoarsely. Somewhere safe. Somewhere my enemies can't reach you. You could try. Elena, I knew the risks. Dante, I chose this. I chose you. She squeezed his fingers. You don't get to make that choice for me. You took a bullet for me. You paid for my mother's cancer treatment. Gave me a life, a purpose. She trailed off, suddenly shy despite everything they'd shared. A what? A home. Someone who sees me. She swallowed hard. I love you. I think I have since that first night, when you looked at me like I mattered. Dante closed his eyes, pressing his forehead to their joined hands. When he looked up, his face was raw with emotion she'd never seen him express. I love you, too. God help us both, but I do. He kissed her palm, which is why this has to end. What has to end? The war, the old grudges, the cycle of violence that almost killed you tonight. His jaw set with determination. I'm calling a summit. Every family, every faction. We're going to negotiate peace, or I'm going to burn it all down trying. The summit took weeks to arrange. Dante called in favors, made threats, promised concessions. Elena watched him work. Seeing the leader, he was beneath the violence. Someone who actually cared about building something better than the empire he'd inherited. The night before the meeting, they made love with desperate intensity, both knowing tomorrow could change everything. If this goes wrong, Dante began, it won't. But if it does, if they kill me, take the information in the safe. He gave her the combination. And go to the FBI. Agent Sarah Park. She's been trying to flip me for years. Give her everything and she'll protect you. Dante, promise me, Elena. I promise. But you're going to survive this. We both are. The summit was held at a neutral location, an old warehouse owned by none of the families. Elena insisted on coming, and Dante, knowing arguing was futile, agreed, but only if she stayed in the car with Marcus. She watched through tinted windows as Dante entered the building, Lorenzo and Sophia flanking him. The other bosses arrived in similar formation, suspicious and armed. Hours passed. Elena's nerves stretched taut, every instinct screaming danger. Then her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Asterisk if you want him to live. Come inside. Alone. 5 minutes. Asterisk. Her blood turned to ice. It was a trap. Had to be. But what if it wasn't? What if Dante needed her? Marcus, I'm going in. Absolutely not. Mr. Moretti's orders. She was already moving, slipping from the car before he could stop her. The warehouse door was unlocked, opening onto darkness. Elena moved quietly, her hand on the gun Marcus had taught her to use, following the sound of voices. She found them in the central space, arranged around a table like the Last Supper. But Dante wasn't negotiating. He was on his knees, a gun pressed to his temple, held by the gray-suited man from the Gala, the one she thought Marcus had handled. Elena! Dante's voice was anguished. Run. She's not going anywhere, the gunman said. You know why? Because she's the leverage I need. You won't legitimize this organization if it means her death. Let her go, Vincent. Dante gritted out. This is between us. No, it's between you and tradition. You and the way things have always been done. Vincent's finger tightened on the trigger. Your father understood that. You're weak, Moretti. Weak and soft, and that woman made you worse. Elena's mind raced, calculating angles and possibilities. The other bosses watched with varying expressions of interest and discomfort, but none intervened. This was a test. Would Dante hold firm on his reforms, or break for love? You're right, Elena said, her voice clear in the tense silence. I did make him weak. Dante's eyes widened. Elena, no. I made him care about collateral damage, about civilian lives, about building something that lasts longer than violence and fear. She moved forward slowly, hands visible. But you know what else I did? I taught him that strength isn't just about guns and intimidation. Stop talking, Vincent snarled. It's about loyalty, about people willing to die for you, not just because they fear you, but because they believe in you. She was closer now, just feet away. Like Marco, who would have died with that bomb rather than betray Dante once he knew the truth. Like Sophia, who runs a foundation that helps the same communities your drugs destroy. Like me. Elena! Dante's voice broke. She met his eyes, trying to telegraph her plan. Then she moved, fast and decisive, not away from Vincent but toward him, grabbing his gun hand and shoving upward. The shot went wild, and Dante was already moving, slamming Vincent to the ground. Chaos erupted. Guns appeared from every direction, but Dante's voice cut through the noise. Enough! Everyone froze. Dante stood over Vincent, Elena at his side, both alive and furious. You want to know if I'm strong enough to lead? I just negotiated peace with 7 families while a gun was pressed to my head. I didn't break. I didn't beg. And my woman, he pulled Elena against him, is braver than any soldier I commanded. He looked around the room, meeting each boss's eyes. The old ways are dying. You can evolve with me, or you can go down fighting. But this... He kicked Vincent's gun away. This end tonight. One by one, the bosses nodded. Some grudgingly, some with relief, but they nodded. The summit continued, and by dawn they had the bones of an agreement. Boundaries, rules, consequences. Not perfect, but a start. In the car home, Elena's adrenaline finally crashed. She trembled against Dante's side, his arm tight around her. Don't ever scare me like that again, he murmured into her hair. No promises. Elena Martinez, will you marry me? She pulled back, shocked. What? I know it's insane. I know it's too fast. But I almost lost you twice, and I'm done wasting time. He pulled a ring from his pocket. Had he been carrying it all night? Marry me. Be my partner in everything, not just survival, but building something better. Say yes. She should be cautious. Should think it through. Should remember all the reasons this was a terrible idea. Yes, she whispered instead. His kiss was relief and promise and forever. 6 months later, Elena stood in a garden filled with roses, wearing white lace and her mother's pearls. The wedding was small, just family and the closest circle, the people who become her new family in this strange, violent, wonderful world. Her mother sat in the front row, thinner but alive, smiling through happy tears. Marco stood as one of Dante's groomsmen, his sister and mother beaming nearby. Sophia was her maid of honor, having helped plan every detail. And Dante waited at the altar, devastatingly handsome in his tuxedo, his eyes bright with emotion as she walked toward him. Dearly beloved, the priest began, but Elena barely heard the words. She was too busy staring at her future, this dangerous, damaged man who'd become her home. When they exchanged vows, Dante's voice was steady. I promise to protect you, cherish you, and love you through every storm. You saved my life in that restaurant, but you gave me a reason to live every day since. Elena's vows were simpler. I promise to stand beside you, challenge you, and love you in all your darkness and light. You saw me when I was invisible, and I'll spend forever seeing you right back. The kiss was sweet and heated, a promise of the night ahead and all the nights after. At the reception, as they danced under string lights, Elena caught sight of their reflection in the garden windows. Two people who'd found each other in darkness and chosen to build something light. What are you thinking? Dante murmured against her temple, that I should write a thank you note to whoever planned that first assassination attempt. His laugh was warm and genuine, the sound she'd worked so hard to coax from him. Dark humor. I've corrupted you completely. You haven't corrupted me. You freed me. She pulled back to look at him. I spent so long trying to be invisible, trying to stay safe. But safety isn't living, Dante. This, she gestured at the garden, their gathered family, the life they were building. This is living. Even with the danger? Especially with the danger. She smiled. Besides, someone has to keep you from getting killed at restaurants. Then I suppose I'll have to keep eating out. They swayed together as the music shifted, slow and sweet. Around them, their world continued. Lorenzo arguing good-naturedly with one of the other family's consigliere about territory boundaries. Marcus showing Marco's sister a magic trick that made her laugh. Sophia dancing with her new girlfriend. Elena's mother chatting animatedly with Dante's grandmother about old country recipes. It was messy and complicated, and probably still dangerous. But it was theirs. Later, much later, in their bedroom at the estate, Dante carried her over the threshold. A tradition she thought too cliché until she felt the significance of it, the moment of crossing from separate lives into one shared future. He set her down gently, his hands moving to the buttons of her wedding dress with reverent patience. I love you, Elena Moretti. The name sent shivers through her. Elena Moretti, no longer invisible, no longer alone. I love you too. They made love slowly this time, memorizing each other as if a first time, whispering promises against skin and breath. When they finally lay tangled together, sated and drowsy, Dante's fingers traced lazy patterns on her hip. Tell me something, he said quietly. That night at Luminosa, if you'd known everything that would happen, the shooting, the danger, all of it, would you still have given me that note? Elena considered the question seriously. She thought about the woman she'd been, scared, struggling, invisible. She thought about the woman she'd become, strong, purposeful, seen. Yes, she said finally, every single time. Why? Because some people are worth saving, and some risks are worth taking. She kissed his jaw. You taught me that. Pretty sure you taught me. Then we taught each other. Dante pulled her closer, his heartbeat steady beneath her ear. Do you ever miss it? The simple life. The anonymity. Sometimes, she admitted. But I don't miss being scared all the time. I don't miss feeling like I was drowning, and no one would notice if I went under. She propped herself up on his chest. With you, I feel solid. Real. Like I finally matter. You always mattered. Elena, the world was just too stupid to notice. She laughed, kissing him. Smooth talker. It's one of my many skills. Oh, what are the others? He rolled her beneath him, his eyes dark with promise. Let me show you. Dawn found them finally sleeping, wrapped around each other like puzzle pieces that had found their match. Sunlight streamed through the windows, painting gold across the rumpled sheets, and the two people who'd built something beautiful from ashes and warnings scribbled on folded paper. In the weeks that followed, Elena settled into her new role as Dante's wife and partner. She attended meetings, her gift for reading people proving invaluable in negotiations. She continued her medical studies, determined to finish what she'd started, and Dante supported her completely, clearing a schedule to quiz her before exams. She also began working with Sophia on the foundation, using her background to establish free clinics in underserved neighborhoods. It was her way of balancing the scales. For every dark thing Dante's world touched, she'd create something light. One evening, 3 months into their marriage, Elena stood in the study, reviewing architectural plans for a new clinic when Marcus appeared in the doorway. "Mrs. Moretti, there's someone here to see you. She says it's urgent." Elena looked up, surprised. "Who?" She wouldn't give her name, but she said you want to hear what she has to say about the night at Luminosa. Every nerve in Elena's body went on alert. That night was supposed to be over, dealt with behind them. She nodded to Marcus. "Bring her in." The woman who entered was young, maybe 20, with haunted eyes and nervous hands. She clutched a purse like a lifeline. "Thank you for seeing me," she said quietly. "My name is Gabriella, Marco's sister." Recognition flooded Elena. "Gabriella, of course. Please sit. Is Marco okay? Is something wrong?" "No, Marco's fine. He's happy, actually. Working as a chef at one of Mr. Moretti's restaurants. Dating someone nice." Gabriella perched on the edge of the chair. "I came because I owe you the truth. About that night." Elena's stomach tightened. "What truth?" "The men who threatened Marco, who forced him to plant that bomb. They didn't just pick him randomly." Gabriella's voice trembled. They knew exactly who to target because someone told them about Marco's debts, his vulnerabilities. Someone inside Luminosa was feeding them information. Who? The manager, Richard Chun. He'd been working with Vincent's crew for months, identifying weak points in the restaurant staff, in Mr. Moretti's routines. Gabriella met Elena's eyes. "But here's the thing. Richard disappeared the night of the bombing. No one's seen him since." Elena's mind raced. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I saw him yesterday, at a coffee shop downtown. He's grown a beard, dyed his hair, but it was him." Gabriella pulled a crumpled napkin from her purse, sliding it across the desk. An address was scrawled in shaky handwriting. "He's staying at a motel on Hamilton Street. I don't know what he's planning, but Mrs. Moretti, he looked at me like he recognized me. If he knows I saw him, you did the right thing coming here." Elena was already pulling out her phone. "Marcus, we need a security detail for Gabriella and her family. Now!" Within minutes, the estate transformed into a command center. Dante arrived from a meeting downtown. Lorenzo appeared with files on Richard Chun, and Sophia took charge of getting Gabriella and her mother to a safe house. "It doesn't make sense," Lorenzo said, spreading surveillance photos across the desk. "Vincent's crew was dismantled months ago. Richard has no reason to still be in the city unless someone else hired him." Dante finished grimly. "Someone who wants to finish what Vincent started." Elena studied the photos, her trained at catching something the others missed. "Look at his jacket in this photo from yesterday. That's not cheap. Someone's paying him well, which means he's working for someone with resources." Dante's jaw clenched. "I need to know who." "Let me talk to him," Elena said. Every head turned to stare at her. "Absolutely not," Dante said flatly. "Listen to me. Richard doesn't know I'm married to you. He only saw me briefly as a waitress. I could approach him, get him talking." "No, Dante." "I said no, Elena. You're not bait." She stood, meeting his fury with calm determination. "I'm not asking permission. I'm telling you the smart play. He'll recognize your men. He won't recognize me in civilian clothes, approaching him like a former co-worker who's concerned. She has a point, Lorenzo said carefully. Dante turned his glare on his consigliere. Whose side are you on? Logic side. Elena can get close in a way we can't, and we'll have her wired, surrounded by backup. What if he recognizes her? What if this is exactly what they want, to draw her out? Then we'll be ready, Elena said softly. She crossed Dante, taking his hands. I'm not the scared waitress anymore. You trained me for this. Trust me. The muscle in his jaw worked. I hate this. I know. If anything happens to you, it won't. I have the best guardian angel in the business. She rose on her toes to kiss him. And I'm not dying before I finish medical school. I have student loans to pay off. That surprised a rough laugh from him. You're insane. You married me anyway. The plan came together with military precision. Elena would approach Richard at the coffee shop where Gabriella had spotted him, wearing a wire and a tracking device. Marcus and a team would maintain a perimeter, close enough to intervene, but far enough to remain unseen. Dante would monitor from a van 2 blocks away, listening to every word. The next morning, Elena dressed in jeans and a simple sweater, pulling her hair into a ponytail. She looked young, harmless, just another face in the morning coffee shop crowd. Remember, Dante said for the 100th time, checking her wire, get him talking, but don't push. If he bolts, let him go. We can track him. I know. And if anything feels wrong, I'll use the safe word. She cupped his face. Breathe. Dante, I've got this. His kiss was desperate and brief. Come back to me? Always. The coffee shop was busy with the morning rush, students and professionals juggling laptops and lattes. Elena spotted Richard immediately, sitting in the back corner, exactly as Gabriella had described, beard covering his weak chin, cheap brown dye doing nothing for his complexion. She ordered a coffee and deliberately bumped his table on her way past. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. She paused, letting recognition dawn slowly. Richard? Richard Chun? He looked up, wary. Do I know you? Elena, from Luminosa? I was a waitress there. She smiled uncertainly. I haven't seen you since that night. Something flickered in his eyes. Elena, right. Sorry, you look different. Can I sit? Just for a minute? I've been wanting to talk to someone who was there, who understands what happened. He hesitated, then nodded to the empty chair. Elena sat, setting her coffee down with shaking hands that weren't entirely faked. It was so scary, she said quietly. The bomb, the chaos. I had nightmares for weeks. Yeah. Richard's fingers tightened around his cup. It was intense. Do they know who did it? The police came by, asked questions, but then nothing. I heard it was some mob thing. Moretti has a lot of enemies. Is that why you left? Elena leaned forward. Everyone wondered where you went. The new manager said you just vanished. Richard's eyes darted to the door, the windows, mapping escape routes. I needed a fresh start. Too many bad memories there. I get that. I almost quit too. But... She paused, watching him. But then I realized running doesn't actually help. The nightmares follow you. Some nightmares are safer than staying. What does that mean? He stood abruptly. Nothing. Look, it was nice seeing you, but I have to go. Wait. Elena reached for his arm, and that's when she saw it. A tattoo on his wrist, partially hidden by a sleeve. A snake eating its tail. The symbol of the Serpent family, one of the factions that had refused Dante's peace agreement. Richard, whose side are you on? His eyes hardened. The winning side. He bolted. Elena was up and moving, following as he shoved to the coffee shop. Marcus, he's running north exit. But Richard was fast, ducking into an alley. Elena pursued, her training kicking in, keeping him in sight while her team converged. She rounded a corner and stopped short. Richard stood 20 feet away, a gun pointed at her chest. I knew you'd come, he said. They told me Moretti's little wife was too stupid to stay safe, that she'd try to play a hero again. Who told you? Elena raised her hands, slowly, buying time. Who are you working for, Richard? People who understand that peace is bad for business. People who want things back the way they were. His hand shook slightly. You ruined everything that night. Vincent had it all planned. One bomb, and the families would have gone to war, torn each other apart. We could have picked up the pieces. So you're here to finish the job? I'm here to send a message. Moretti can't protect what he loves. Neither can his peace. You won't make it out of this alley alive, Elena said calmly. You know that, right? My husband's men are already surrounding us. I don't need to live. I just need you to die. The gunshot cracked through the alley, but Elena had already moved, dropping and rolling as her training demanded. A second shot followed, then a third, but none of them came from Richard's gun. Marcus emerged from a fire escape above, his weapon trained on Richard's crumpled form. Mrs. Moretti, are you hurt? Elena stood on shaking legs, staring at Richard's body. No, I'm okay. Dante appeared at the alley's entrance, running toward her with wild eyes. He pulled her into his arms, crushing her against him. You're okay. You're okay. I'm okay, she repeated. But the trembling started then, adrenaline crashing. He was working for the Serpent family. They're planning something. I know. We heard. Dante pulled back, scanning her for injuries. We're handling it. And they did. Within 48 hours, Dante and Lorenzo had traced the plot back to its source. Antonio Serpent, the young heir who'd refused a peace treaty out of pride and greed. The evidence Richard had been carrying, along with his tattoo and Elena's testimony, was enough to turn the other families against him. The commission, the ruling body of all the families, convened and delivered their verdict. Antonio Serpent was stripped of his territory and exiled. The Serpent family, under new leadership, would join the peace accord or face elimination. They chose peace. Through it all, Elena stood at Dante's side, no longer just protected but protecting, no longer just loved but essential. She'd earned her place not through violence but through courage, insight, and the stubborn refusal to be anything less than a full partner. 2 months later, Elena received her acceptance letter to resume medical school, this time at the city's most prestigious program. She'd also been offered a position on the hospital board, her new name opening doors that had been locked before. You don't have to take it, Dante said, watching her read the letter. The foundation work, the family business, it's more than enough. I want to, Elena said. I want to finish what I started. Prove that girl who dropped out can still become the doctor she dreamed of being. You don't have anything to prove. Not to you. To me. She smiled. Besides, having a doctor in the family might come in handy, given your line of work. Fair point. They stood together in the study where they played chess that first week, where so much between them had begun. The chessboard sat on the desk, arranged for a new game. Play me? Elena asked. You'll just beat me again. Probably. They played. And this time when she sacrificed her queen, Dante saw it coming. He smiled and captured it anyway, letting her win. You let me win, she accused. I know, but watching you victory dance is worth the loss. She laughed, launching herself at him. They tumbled onto the leather couch, kissing and laughing, young and in love despite everything they'd survived. Later, curled against his chest, Elena thought about the note that had started everything. 4 simple sentences that had changed both their lives. Asterisk table 12. They're here for you. Kitchen compromise. Asterisk. What are you thinking? Dante asked, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on her shoulder. That I should write more notes. Please don't. My heart can't take it. What if I wrote you love notes instead? Those I could handle. He kissed her forehead. Write me one every day for the rest of our lives. That's a lot of notes. I'm counting on a long life. Elena lifted her head to look at him. Promise me something. Anything. If I ever have to save you again, and I probably will because you're terrible at staying out of danger, promise you won't get mad. I can't promise that. You in danger makes me insane. Then promise you'll get mad after I'm safe. He laughed. Deal. They sealed it with a kiss. This bargain between two people who'd found each other in darkness and refused to let go. Outside, the city sprawled in all its corrupt beauty, full of dangers they had faced together. But in this moment, wrapped in each other's arms, they were simply Elena and Dante, two people who'd saved each other in ways that had nothing to do with guns or warnings or bombs, and everything to do with being seen, being chosen, being loved. The note that began everything sat preserved in a frame on Dante's desk, a reminder the night an invisible waitress had become the most important person in a mafia boss's world. Beneath it, Dante had written a single line in Italian, asterisk, fortuna favors the coraggiosi, asterisk, fortune favors the brave. And they had been brave, both of them, in choosing love over safety, partnership over power, truth over silence. It wasn't a fairy tale. Their world was too dark for that, but it was real, and it was theirs, and that was better than any fantasy. Elena fell asleep that night with Dante's heartbeat beneath her ear and a smile on her lips, grateful for every dangerous, difficult, perfect moment that had led her here. Tomorrow she'd start medical school again. Tomorrow there would be new threats to face, new challenges to overcome. But tonight, they had this, each other, and the future they were building one brave choice at a time. And it all began with a note passed in silence, a warning whisper without words, a leap of faith taken by a woman who decided that some people were worth saving, even if it meant stepping into the darkness to do it, especially then.